So my grandfather came with his family. He was quite a small boy when he migrated, so he was only 7 years old when he came over.
Quite young.
And came with his family, so he grew up in Australia, and my mother, he then married an Irish woman. So my mother's background was not so much. I think they probably just had a fairly typical Melburnian upbringing. There wasn't a huge Maltese influence. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, was there any Maltese influence in your life at all? But having your grandfather come out so young in life, there's hardly any influence whatsoever.
No, not so much. And he died very young, actually. He died just before I was born. So, unfortunately, I never got to meet him, and I never got to understand some of the experiences that he had as he was growing up. But some of my mother's brothers. My mother came from a very large family. She's got 6 brothers. So some of them are very interested in the Maltese history and have done a lot of research, and they've been starting to have a look at some typical Maltese cuisine and look at his story. And so I've probably learnt a lot more from them than I did in the early days.
But you have been to Malta.
I have been to Malta. Yes. So I went with my mother. It was about 20 years ago, before I had children. We were going to visit some family in Ireland, and we decided to take a side trip to Malta and meet up with some family and have a bit of a look at essentially where we came from and the church where my grandfather was christened, and so that was fantastic.
Having now this background in baking and decorating cookies, did you have any opportunities to try Maltese sweets and sort of get familiarised with Maltese sweets at all?
No, really. No. My understanding of Maltese sweets has come about since I started decorating cookies. I've had a lot of Maltese customers who've come in, and a lot of people come to learn my classes because they're making fagoli.
Of course.
And so I've learnt so much from them about the fagoli and about because they're wanting to decorate fagoli and they want them to look beautiful. I think that's probably, I've learnt more from my customers than I have sort of from my own history.
Right.
Yeah.
And have you started making fagoli yourself now?
No, I haven't. I've tasted it and I love it, but I don't dare make it because it's so good because I have a lot of my customers who give me some fagoli, and it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
so I haven't tried making it myself. Yeah.
Now let's come down to Miss Biscuit. How did Miss Biscuit come about?
So, well, I'm actually a speech pathologist by trade. I'm not actually a baker. But one day I discovered royal icing cookies, and someone gave me a few cookie cutters. And I've always loved to bake, and I've always been quite creative. So one day, I started looking at royal icing cookies online and got instantly hooked because you didn't actually see a lot of royal icing cookies in Australia at that time. They weren't very popular. No one really was making them. So I started making them, and I registered my home kitchen and started selling cookies from my home kitchen. People were putting in orders, and then before you know it, you knew it. People were asking me for classes because I was developing a bit of a profile for cookies in Australia, and then the classes just developed at home, and it just sort of grew from there. Classes at home got a bit crazy because I was sort of kicking my family out every weekend so that I could run classes at home, and we had a permanent shop set up in the lounge room and boxes down the hallway. So we had to do something. So when I came across this building and rang my husband and said, that's it, we're going to open a cookie shop. And we did.
Miss Biscuit was born.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, just looking at these cookies, it's an art, really. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do this. So myself, looking at these cookies, I go, I can't do that. Can us mortal people do
Absolutely, yes, you can. And that's what our classes are all about. It's about showing people how easy it is to be able to create something like that. These ones are probably a little bit more complicated, but these ones here are very, very straightforward, and this is what we do in our beginners class, and everybody walks away with cookies looking like that.
How do you come up with the designs?
Look, I get my designs and my inspiration from lots of different places. I tend to see the world in cookies. So every time I look at something, I might look at a greeting card and think, oh, that would make a gorgeous cookie. Or I might look at some wallpaper and think that's an incredible design, and I think that would make a gorgeous cookie. So
So you're inspired by.
I'm inspired by so much around me. Yeah. Absolutely.
What about the classes? There's obviously beginners classes for sure. So tell us more about the classes and what you offer in the classes.
Yeah. So the beginners class is by far our most popular. We have people travelling, really, because we're the only studio like it in Australia. We have people travelling all around Australia. And we have people travelling from Asia as well to come to our classes. So it's by far our most popular. It's a 5-hour class, and we teach everything you need to know in order to be able to create that plate of cookies, basically. We give you all our recipes, we make the icing, we show you how to bake the perfect cookie, we show how to colour your icing and how to pipe and we also go into lots of things like storage and shelf life. We have lots of people coming who run home businesses and they want to add cookies maybe to their cake business at home. So they come along because we give lots of information that's really useful for business, small business as well.
Speaking about baking, what's the secret to bake a really good cookie?
It's about having a really good recipe. Absolutely. You need
It is all in the recipe
because you when you're creating a design, you want your cookie to be the shape of the cookie cutter.
Yeah.
You don't want it to spread at all, and you want your cookie to be looking perfect. So you do have to make sure that you have a really good base recipe, and that's what we give in our classes, so that when you bake your cookies, they will come out looking like that.
And the secret for icing cookies?
The secret for icing, the secret for icing is all about your icing consistency. So when you make your icing, you need to make a number of different consistencies in order to be able to then pipe it and put it on the cookie. And that's the key to it. It's about knowing and understanding those consistencies, which is what we go through in the class.
You mentioned the shell life before. How long would a nice cookie last for?
Look, they're an incredible product because they do actually have quite a long shelf life. We tend to find that they last for around 2 to 3 months.
Wow.
So, and that's without, there's no preservatives or anything.
Wow.
So the sugar in them really preserves them. And so as long as you seal them properly and store them properly, then you will get generally at least 2 to 3 months out of them. Sometimes if you've got a base such as a gingerbread base or a chocolate base, you can even get 4 to 5 months out of them.
That's great, because if you've got an event coming up, a party or whatever,
absolutely.
you can pre-prepare them well in advance.
Oh, for sure. And you can also freeze them. So you can freeze them fully decorated, which means you can make your Christmas cookies back in July.
Wow.
And then pull them out at Christmas time.
And then just defrost them,
and
that's
then
it.
just defrost them, yeah.
Wow.